the present situation is not the Republic of the United States. What we have is the analogy is that the pirates have come in the middle of the night, they have killed the captain and the crew, and that they have taken complete control of the ship. And this thing that we call the United States government is absolutely an illusion. It has no more connection with the Constitution, the Republic, and the Bill of Rights than the man in the moon.
You know, you go to a doctor and you get a diagnosis. You may not like the diagnosis, but you don't call the doctor names. And you don't get all uptight about it. But when people hear a diagnosis, an economic diagnosis, a geopolitical, political diagnosis, that ruffles their ideology or is counter to their party belief, they really get upset about it. So we only look at things for the way they are, not the way we wish they would be. The panicof'08.com. We knew the panic would come in 08. In November of 2008, we took out the domain name, the collapse of 09. The economic system is collapsing and there's no salvation for it. Current events form future trends. You look what happened during the retail Christmas sales of 2007. We saw women's apparel off 23%. We saw home furnishings and electronics down 27%. We saw luxury items off 35%. These are Depression-era falls. How much more do people have to see before they understand what's happening? When you look at luxury items, understand this thing is collapsing from the top down. Everybody's getting wiped out on this one. This is big. Okay, in 2008, we saw Circuit City, Steve & Barry's, Linens and Things. We saw Sharper Image, Bennigan's, KB Toys go belly up. We're seeing Starbucks, we're seeing Home Depot closing stores. And we're going to see many, many more of them as the year goes on. The question becomes, who is going to rent all of these vacant retail spaces? The answer? Nobody. You're going to see ghost malls. You're going to see empty shops all over. The next level, the commercial real estate sector and the business end. Merrill Lynch mob, the Bear Stearns gang, the Lehman boys, all these people that went belly up or out of business, all these bond companies. Who's going to rent all the vacant commercial office space they're leaving behind, plus the thousands and thousands of others from the Bank of America, the Citigroups, laying off 50,000, 55,000. 1 week in America, we saw some 70,000 jobs evaporate. Who's going to rent all of this empty space? The answer is nobody. You're going to see a commercial real estate collapse that's going to make the residential retail bust look like a kid's game. You're going to see vacant office buildings, vacant malls throughout this country. The collapse of 09. In 08, it was the financial sector. In 09, the commercial real estate sector, and everything else collapses with it. There is no saving the sinking ship. There's too many torpedoes that have been taken.
Zbigniew Brzezinski is a petty Polish aristocrat. He represents a social class called the Szlachta, the lower aristocrats. In German, it's Milchadel, milk nobility, the lowest. And he was trapped in Canada by the Hitler-Stalin Pact. His father was a diplomat serving the government of Pilsudski and this guy Smidley Ridge, right-wing authoritarian Polish governments in the 1930s. He then went to McGill University. He would have gone to Britain. I think he wanted to go to Britain, but he couldn't do it because of various technical considerations. So he then got into Harvard and eventually became the head of the Soviet Affairs Institute at Columbia. I believe that is where he picked up Barack Hussein Obama, Barry Soetoro, between 1981 and 1983, when both Brzezinski and Barry Soetoro were on the same campus probably in the same department. Look at Obama's graduating thesis, Soviet military disarmament. That's nuclear disarmament. That's absolutely critical because it's a topic that has Brzezinski written all over it. So Brzezinski was, of course, the head of the National Security Council under Jimmy Carter. He is the guy who successfully played the Afghan Mujahideen against the Soviet Union. He has boasted that he lured the Soviets into invading Afghanistan by sending in U.S. Special Forces teams in the summer of 1979, 6 months before the Soviets invaded the country. He's also the guy who played Saddam Hussein Iraq against Khomeini's Iran for the purpose of destroying both countries, but of propping up both dictatorships at the same time. In other words, the Khomeini regime by 1980 was showing signs of collapse. So Brzezinski said, all we need is a foreign threat. So let's play Iraq against Iran and we'll keep both of them going. He was also a supporter of the Pol Pot genocidalist regime, and he's generally known for the traditional imperialist method of using one country as a tool against another so that you don't have to get involved and you don't have to face military defeat and all the expense. The ruling passion of his life is a hatred of Russia. He is a Russophobe. He is a ferocious enemy of everything Russian. There's a Brzezinski plan. The Russians will tell you, and I think it does exist. He doesn't publish it, but this is behind the scenes. He would like to divide European Russia into 4 or 5 different countries. He'd like to go back to a situation like you had during the Russian Civil War of 1919-1920, where you had the Bolsheviks in the middle maybe, but a whole bunch of other countries that had broken off, the north, the south, and so forth. So every Russian knows that Brzezinski means furious hatred, fanatical hatred of Russia. So that's what we have to expect under Obama. We're going to move towards some kind of apocalyptic endgame against Moscow and Beijing, with Brzezinski calling the shots through somebody like the most important official of the new regime is already clearly Robert Gates from the Pentagon. He's going to run intelligence, run the Pentagon. He's a clone of Brzezinski and has boasted about it.